The Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, Cruiser Max Vibrants, High Stick NT, and the Manitoba Pulse Growers.
Joined now here on RealAgriculture.com by Kristen Podolsky, the production specialist with the Manitoba Pulse Growers Association. And Kristen, we're standing in a soybean plot here just outside of Carman, Manitoba, and hearing from some growers that they may have seen some frost touch their soybeans. How should a producer go about assessing a soybean crop for the impact from frost?
Right, so we've had some cool temperatures as of late and some scares with frost. So before we assess what the frost impact is, it's important to understand what the factors are, what your frost risk is. So some of the factors that would impact the degree of damage to a soybean crop, first and foremost would be what growth stage that the soybeans are at. So the greener the crop, obviously the more damage that we're going to have by a frost. The second thing is what the minimum air temperature gets to and how long that air temperature lasts. And then other factors do come into play, such as things in the environment. So even things like how dense your plant canopy is. It's been shown that narrower rows actually tend to insulate the soil better, and then frost isn't able to penetrate as well. So narrow rows may escape frost better than wide row soybeans. And then other things like cloudy conditions and wind. So generally if we have cloud cover and windy conditions, that can keep the frost away. So what would be a killing frost for soybeans? If we hover around that 0 to -1 degree temperature, then we can expect to see fairly minor damage. What we might see is some killing of the leaf top growth. But really, to kill all green material, pods, stems, leaves, even the entire plant, we need to get down to that -2 for an extended period of time, and that would be the most detrimental.
So, looking at these plots that we're standing in here, how would you rate these maturities versus the potential impact of frost or those freezing those kinds of temperatures?
Right. So across Manitoba, we have first of all a range of seeding dates. Second of all, a range of varieties and their days to maturity, and then of course we have different environments. So some areas have accumulated more heat than others. So we definitely always have a range of maturity. So what we're looking at here is what we would call a green soybean crop that is definitely at risk to frost damage. This crop, I would say, is generally green, and it would be at the R6 growth stage, which is full seed, which means that we could potentially see upwards of 50% yield loss if we were to see a killing frost. To the other side here, this is the exact opposite. This is actually a full maturity soybean. This would be rated at R8. Full maturity. Basically we are seeing no leaves and 95%, basically all our pods are brown, which is the mature color. So we've looked at a green soybean crop that's still in the full seed stage, and we've also looked at a fully mature soybean crop at the R8 stage. So what's in between is what we call R7, and that's physiological maturity. And what happens at R7 is we see all the pods on the main stem turning yellow, and at least one pod on the main stem has turned its mature color, which is brown. So in soybean maturity and development, the pods will gradually turn from green to greenish yellow to yellow and then to brown. So at R7, we have the majority of pods are yellow, and we have a few starting to turn brown at the bottom. This is physiological maturity, and we can say that we are fairly safe from a killing frost at this stage.
So what do you recommend for harvesting if a producer unfortunately has to deal with frost hitting soybeans before they reach that stage?
Right, so there's a few aspects we can look at, and there's a few situations that could happen. The first thing that can happen is we experience a light frost, in which case we'll see the top growth of the plants killed. This will generally cause minor damage. We may lose some of the pod fill at the top. What happens when the leaf is killed is that the photosynthates are no longer moved to the seed, and so some of those pods or seeds may abort at the top growth where the frost killed. But the problem with that is, even if we get away with the first light frost, subsequent frosts will penetrate deeper into the canopy, causing more damage. So if we're looking at a crop and we're looking for frost damage, what we're looking for essentially are dead, wilted leaves. And a unique thing about frost damage is that they will remain attached to the stem versus just natural maturity, the leaves will drop off. So dead, wilted leaves, and then if we have a hard killing frost and the whole plant is killed, what we'll start to see is all leaves wilting and dying, and then the stem will turn a dark green to brown color. So the worst case scenario would be that we get a killing frost on green soybeans. So the question then is, what are producers going to do? And the best advice is to leave the crop. Generally, if the crop has reached at least R6, R6.5, which is halfway through the seed fill stage, and the pods have turned greenish yellow, the crop will still be harvestable, but there are some considerations that growers need to think of. The first is that the dry down will be slower, so we'll be waiting longer to harvest. The second thing is that when we do go to harvest, the moisture content will be variable and is often higher than what our moisture meters will tell us, so we often need to add at least a percentage of moisture. And the other thing is on yield and quality. So if we get a frost on green soybeans, there will definitely be some yield and quality loss. The yield loss comes from the lack of seed size. So essentially the seed will stop filling, and then it will maintain its green color and shrivel. So there'll be green seed and then small seed, causing yield and quality loss. And the other thing is that growers often ask is about green seed and whether or not green seed will mature in storage. Recent studies from Minnesota have actually shown that when comparing green and yellow soybeans in storage over a matter of 3 or 4 months, that there hasn't actually been a significant change in color. Although there have been anecdotal reports of if the seed is greenish yellow and the green is sort of limited to the seed coat, that there will be some lightening of color in storage. But overall, we should be prepared for quality loss and green seed count.
So what about if we see frost at the R7 stage as to your left?
So at R7, which is the physiological maturity, we have yellow pods, some brown pods starting. We really don't have too many concerns. There could be minor, maybe 5 to 10% yield loss, and the yield loss there would really just be coming from some of those top pods that didn't get a chance to fill. And again, it will dry down in the field, might take a little bit longer, might be dealing with a little bit of higher moisture, but overall, as long as they reached at least R6.5, R7, our crops will be harvestable. But we just need to keep in mind some of those yield and quality considerations and think a bit more about harvest. The other thing is that if we have green seed, it might be more difficult to thresh. So we need to make adjustments on our combine, perhaps reducing the concave clearance if they're a little bit more difficult to thresh.